Start. Now let us discuss another case of this same problem. Right, this will help you in the interviews, right? In interviews, they will confuse you by giving different problems of the same thing. If let us say we have this same water, right? Water is there of density rho, and now this in this water we have this ice cube. We have this ice cube of mass m1. Let us say m1 is the mass of ice cube. m1 is the mass of ice cube, and the change here we will say that, let us say in this ice cube we have a iron nail. Right, we have a iron nail. Means you take a water, you put an iron nail in it and freeze it, then this ice cube will have a iron nail in it. So I am saying that m2 is the mass of this iron nail, and density rho 2 you can say is the density of iron nail. Let us say rho 2 is the density of iron, right? Now the question is same, that when this ice will melt down, and if this ice will melt into water, this iron nail will settle inside, right? It will submerge in the water. Then whether the level of this water is rise, or it may fall down, or it will remain constant, right? Let us say it is the level initially when we submerge this iron nail along with this ice. After melting, we want to see whether the level will fall down or it may rise. Now first of all, we'll do the same. If I am saying that V1 is the volume of water displaced by them, let us say volume of water displaced is V1. So if you write the principle of flotation, condition of flotation, if you write here, so the condition of flotation will be that weight of the body will be equal to the Buoyant's force. So I can write here, what is the weight of the body now? Weight of the body is weight of nail plus weight of ice, that is m1 plus m2 into g. This is the weight of the body, is equal to volume, is equal to the Buoyant's force. Buoyant's force is density of fluid, that is rho g into volume of fluid displaced V1. Volume of fluid displaced V1. So from here you can write that volume of displaced V1 will be equal to m1 upon rho plus m2 upon rho. This is the volume of fluid displaced. This much amount of water is displaced by this ice block initially. m1 by rho plus m2 by rho, where rho is the density of water. Now let us say that, now if I can say when ice melts down, what happens? When ice will melt down, the mass of this ice, that is m1, will convert into water, right? There is two things happen. First, let us say what happened with the ice. We can say when this ice block of mass m1 will convert into water, then we can say that the volume recovered because of ice will be mass of ice divided by density of water, or density of ice, m1 by rho. So this much amount of water we will get when this ice will melt down. You will get the amount of water when this ice will melt, and the volume will be m1 by rho. Now let us see what happened with the iron nail. What happened is, when this ice will melt down, this iron nail will come here, right? This iron nail will come here. This iron nail will submerged into the water. If it is submerged into the water, it will displace the water, right? It will displace the water. If this iron nail is coming inside the water, then this much amount of water it will replace. So it will give you that much amount of water. How much is the volume of water displaced by the iron nail? How much is the volume displaced by the iron nail? Iron nail will displace the volume equal to its own volume, right? If I can say the volume of the iron is m2 by rho 2, if this is the volume of the iron nail, so this much amount of water it can give you, because it displays that much amount of water. So this is also the extra water you will get. So the total volume of water you recovered from this, will be, from here you can write m1 by rho plus m2 by rho 2. This much you will get. This much you will get. But initially, how much is the volume displaced? V1. Initially, how much is the volume displaced is m1 by rho plus m2 by rho. This is the thing. You displaced this much amount of water, but you will get this much amount. This m1 and m1 will be same. These are same. But if we see this one and this one, we know that density of iron is more than density of water. Density of iron is more than the density of water. So if ρ2 is more than the rho, then we can say this term is less than m2 by rho. This term is less than m2 by rho. So you will get less water than you required. You required this much amount to make the level same, but you will get the less water, hence the level will fall down. Hence the level of water will fall down. So this is the concept. You can check it. You can do this experiment at your home, right? The level of the water will fall down. So these kind of questions they may give in the interview. They may ask to check your concept of flotation, concept of buoyancy. So it may help you to see that how the things will work in the buoyancy. Stop. Start. Now our next topic is types of equilibrium. In this topic, we want to discuss the equilibrium of completely submerged bodies and partially submerged bodies. So now, first of all, let us discuss about the types of equilibrium. In practical, right, if you remember your concept of physics, which you studied in your 11th class or 12th class, or concept of engineering mechanics, you may think that the equilibrium is of three types: stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium, and neutral equilibrium. So if we talk about all these in detail, what is the meaning of stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium, and neutral equilibrium? So first of all, let us discuss about the stable equilibrium. Stable equilibrium. We say that stable equilibrium means when a body is displaced. Suppose you have a body, suppose let us say this is a pendulum, right? This is a pendulum. This is the initial position of this body. This is the equilibrium position of this body, of this pendulum. If you just disturb it, very slightly, and if you remove this disturbing force, and after the removing of this disturbing force, this body will regain its original position, will regain its original equilibrium position. It is known as the stable equilibrium. That means this equilibrium of this body is stable. However, if you disturb this equilibrium, after removing the disturbing force, it will come back to its original position. So this is the stable equilibrium. Let us say, if you want to see, let us say we have this curved surface. We have this curved surface, right? This is fixed. You have a curved surface, and I'm saying, suppose I have a circular ball here. You have a circular ball here, and this is the initial equilibrium position of this ball. Equilibrium position of this ball, right? If I disturb this equilibrium position, if I move this ball from this position to this position, if I disturb it, right? If I disturb it in this direction, this is the disturbing force. Disturbing force. If I disturb it and if I remove this disturbing force, this body will restore its original position. Then this is the example of stable equilibrium. In this case, you can write that restoring force. Restoring force. This restoring force is greater than the disturbing force. Is greater than the disturbing force. Hence, the body will be in stable equilibrium. If I write the definition, then we can say when a body is displaced, from its original equilibrium position, if it tends to come back to its original position, it tends to come back to its original position. This is known as stable equilibrium. If it will regain its original equilibrium position, then this is known as stable equilibrium. Now let us discuss about unstable equilibrium. Second is unstable equilibrium. This concept will help you in fluid mechanics, theory of machine, or in your engineering mechanics, strength of material. Everywhere you will come across these words: stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium. So now let us discuss what is the unstable equilibrium. Suppose we have this type of curved surface. we have this type of curved surface. Right, on this curved surface, if I have a spherical ball, if I have a spherical ball here, this is its original position, original equilibrium position. If I disturb this equilibrium position, if I disturb this equilibrium position, then you can see from here that this body will go in this direction only. It will never come back to its original position. It will never come back to its original position. So this is the your unstable equilibrium, and in unstable equilibrium, disturbing force is very dominating than restoring force. Restoring force dominate by the disturbing force. Disturbing force is very much dominating in this case of unstable equilibrium. So if I write the definition, then when a body is displaced, you can write when a body is displaced from its original equilibrium position, right, it will never come back to its initial position. It will never come back to its original position, and it will move continuously. This is known as unstable equilibrium. So if in any system, if the equilibrium is like that, if you disturb it, it will continuously move and will not come back to its original position. That is known as unstable equilibrium. Third one is neutral equilibrium. Third one is your neutral equilibrium. Let us say we have this plane surface. On this plane surface, I have a ball. Let us say we have a spherical ball here. This is the initial equilibrium position of this ball. This is, you can write initial equilibrium. Right. If I disturb it up to this point, if you disturb it, this ball will not go back to its original position, neither it will move continuously. It will stay here only. Right. So it will get its new equilibrium position. Neither it can come back to its original position, nor it can move continuously as like of unstable equilibrium. It will stop here only. It will reach its new equilibrium position. So this is known as neutral equilibrium. So if I write the definition here, that when a body is displaced from its original equilibrium position, right, it will attain a new equilibrium. But it will never come back to its original position. It will never come back to its original position. This type of equilibrium is known as neutral equilibrium. So you have three types of equilibrium: stable, unstable, and neutral. And now we have to see, when a body is completely under the fluid, then what is the condition for its stability? For, you can say, stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium, and we can say that when a body is partially submerged, then what is the condition of stable and unstable equilibrium? We will discuss it. Stop. Start. Now there are two types of stability in your mechanics, or let it be fluid mechanics or engineering mechanics. We already say that what is the stable equilibrium? Stable equilibrium is that equilibrium in which if you disturb the original equilibrium position of a body, then after removing the disturbing force, that body will regain its original equilibrium position. Then we can say that it is a stable equilibrium. So there are two types of stability which we have to discuss. One is the linear stability and another one is the rotational stability. Linear stability means if you move the body from its equilibrium position linearly, then that if it comes back to its initial equilibrium position, then it is a linear stable. And if you disturb the body rotationally, if you give a rotation to that body and when it comes back to its original position, then we can say that it is a rotational equilibrium or rotational stable equilibrium. So we can say, let us start with the linear stability. We say that when a small linear displacement when a small linear displacement, if you give a very small linear displacement and it sets up, this small linear displacement sets up a restoring force, and because of this restoring force, if the body will come in its equilibrium, initial equilibrium position, then we can say that the body is said to be in, linear stability. Then this body is said to be in linear stability, right? For example, if we say that, let us see that, suppose this is a free surface, here we have some fluid, right? And in this there is a body which is partially submerged. In this, let us say this is the body which is partially submerged in this fluid, right? This body is partially submerged in this fluid. Let us rename it. Let us say this is A, B, C, D, right? Now this body is in equilibrium position at present. And if you say that this body is a floating body, and in this case the net force will be 0, that means the weight of this body is equal to your buoyancy force. So this body is in stable equilibrium. You can say this body is in equilibrium at present, right? Now if in this case, if I give a linear displacement to this body, if I disturb this, if I push it in the downward direction, if I disturb this body and release it, it will come back to its original equilibrium position. Because in this case, when the body is floating, so the weight and the buoyancy force must be equal to each other. So it will come back to its original equilibrium position. So suppose if you push this body in the downward direction, a linear displacement, if we give it, let us say this is A dash, this is B dash, and let us say this is C dash and D dash. If you give this a linear displacement in the downward direction, then a restoring force will set up and this body will come back to its original equilibrium position, that is A, B, C, D, and we can say that this body is in linear stable equilibrium. This body is linearly stable. Similarly, there is a term which is known as rotational stability. Similarly to the linear equilibrium, if we can say that when a small angular displacement, here we have linear displacement, but in the rotational, if we can say when a small angular displacement, you give a small angular displacement to the body, and this angular displacement sets up a restoring force, the body is, and because of this restoring force, if the body come back to its original equilibrium position, the body is said to be in rotational stability. This is the meaning of rotational stability, right? If you remember our earlier case, when we give a rotational motion to that ball will come into its original position. That stability is the rotational stability. Suppose similarly, if we can say, let us say this is a free surface of the fluid. This is a free surface. Here we have some fluid, and there is a body in this which is floating. This body is floating in this fluid. So initially the equilibrium will be same. The equilibrium is there. So weight of the body will be equal to the buoyancy force. Now if you give to this body a rotational, moment, if you rotate this body in this direction, if you rotate this body, let us say in that case this body will be like this. I rotate this body, the body will go like this, body will rotate, right? So in this case, if you remove this rotational force, if you remove this disturbing force, if a restoring force is sets up in this body, and because of this restoring force, this body will reach its equilibrium position, original equilibrium position, then we can say that this body is in rotational stability, right? We will see what is the condition for this rotational stability of these kind of floating bodies, and what is the condition of rotational stability for those bodies which are completely submerged in the water or in the fluid. So we have to study one by one. First of all, we will study about the rotational stability of completely submerged bodies. Stop. Start. Now the first case of our discussion is the rotational stability of completely submerged bodies. those bodies which are completely inside the fluid, we have to see whether that what are the conditions that in which the body is in stable equilibrium or unstable equilibrium, or you can say neutral equilibrium, we have to see. Generally, we already see that if the body is not homogeneous in the mass distribution, if the body is not homogeneous, or you can say the uniform mass distribution is not there, in that case, the center of gravity of the body and the center of buoyancy will not be at same point, will not coincide with each other. It is not possible, right? Because center of gravity will depend upon the mass distribution in the body, whereas center of buoyancy will depend upon the mass distribution of the fluid which is in place of that body. If we put up the fluid, then what is the center of gravity of that fluid mass distribution, right? If the body is homogeneous, then they will coincide, but if they are not homogeneous, they will not coincide with each other. So we will see that what are the conditions for the stable, unstable and neutral equilibrium for completely submerged bodies, right? We will take the 3 examples to make you more clear that which is the condition for different types of equilibrium. Let us say your first thing is, let us say this is the free surface. This is a free surface. We have fluid here, right? We have a body like this. Just pay attention. We have a body like this. We have a body like this shape, right? This is closed here. We have a body of this shape, let us say. Okay, if I closed it, it will give you more. Right, we have a body of this shape. And I am saying, let us say this upper part is made up of wood and this lower part is made up of metal. We assume it, right? Right. Let us say this is the axis of this body. This is the axis of this body. And you know that in this case, the center of gravity is near this wall. Center of gravity is near to this metal because metal density is more than this wood density. So the center of gravity is near to this metal, right? It will close to this metal. This is not a homogeneous body because we have some material wood and another material metal. So mass distribution is not uniform. So center of gravity will be near to the heavier object. So we can say, let us say that here we have center of gravity G. And let us say here we have center of buoyancy B. Center of buoyancy B, right? Center of gravity will depend upon the mass distribution of this body, and center of buoyancy will depend upon the mass distribution of the fluid. If in place of this body we put up this fluid of density rho, then the mass distribution of that fluid will depend upon the center of buoyancy. And we know that on center of buoyancy we have a buoyancy force in the upward direction. We have buoyancy force. And at the center of gravity, we have weight acting in the downward direction. At the center of gravity, weight will be there. At the center of buoyancy, buoyancy force in the upward direction is there. Now, I give it a rotational displacement in this direction. I give it a disturbing force in the clockwise direction. I tilt it in the clockwise direction. A small displacement I give it and release it. Release the displacement. Release this force. Now we will see what happened. Let us say after tilting, this body will get this shape. Right. This is the shape after tilting. This is the shape after you tilt this body. Right. I tilt this body in the clockwise direction. Now let us say that this is the axis of this new axis of this body. This is the new axis of this body. Now, one thing which you appreciate is that when a body is completely submerged, there should not be any change in the center of gravity and center of buoyancy. There should not be any change. Why? First of all, center of gravity will remain same, right? Body is same. You do not remove any weight from the body. So body is same, shape is same. So the center of gravity will be same. Center of gravity will be here only. Center of gravity will be here only. If we talk about the center of buoyancy will depend upon the mass distribution of the fluid. The fluid displaced by this time, the fluid displaced by this body is equal to the fluid displaced by this body. There is no extra fluid is displaced. There is no variation, no change in the fluid displacement. The amount of fluid which is displaced by this body is equal to the amount of fluid which is displaced by this body. Only the position change, but the fluid displacement, the mass of the fluid which is displaced will be same. Right. So the center of buoyancy will be same. Center of buoyancy will lie here only. Let us say center of buoyancy will lie here only. Center of buoyancy will not change. Center of buoyancy can't change when the body is in your The axis of center of buoyancy will not change when the body is completely submerged inside the fluid. We know that on the center of gravity, we have a downward force which we know is weight. Weight is acting from the center of gravity in the downward direction. And on the buoyancy force, we have a upward force. On the buoyancy B, we have a upward force, that is the buoyancy force. That is the buoyancy force. And for equilibrium, you know that if this body is in equilibrium, these two forces are equal here, right? For equilibrium, these two forces FB will be equal to weight. Otherwise, it will not be in the equilibrium, right? If buoyancy force is more, then it will go up. If weight is more, then it will go down. After some time, it will attain the equilibrium. So this is the condition of equilibrium. So the buoyancy force and weight is equal. So we can say that this is a buoyancy force in the upward direction. In the downward direction, weight is there. There is some distance between them. It will give you a couple. It will give you a couple in the anti-clockwise direction. It will give you a couple in the anti-clockwise direction. This is the restoring couple. Restoring force, you can say, or restoring couple in this case. This is a restoring couple. You disturb this body in the clockwise direction, but this body will give you a restoring force in the anti-clockwise direction, and this body will regain. Once you remove this disturbing force, this body will regain its original position because of this restoring couple. Hence, this body is in stable equilibrium. This body is in stable equilibrium, right? You can see that this is a disturbing force, this is a restoring force. So restoring force will be opposite to the disturbing force. So this body will be in the stable equilibrium. It will reach its original position. Now the second case, if we see, this is the first case. Now let us see the second case. Suppose this is the free surface. Second case we have to see, this is the free surface. And now there we have fluid here. We have a fluid here. Now the body shape is like, in this case, center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy. This is the body which is inside the fluid, let us say. Right, same, it is this same body, but just I put it metal above and wood in the downward direction. So this is the body, this is metal, this is wood, and this is the initial axis of this body. Let us say this is the axis of this body. You know that in this case, the center of gravity is near to the iron, so this is point G, and center of buoyancy will be, let us say, somewhere here. This is a center of buoyancy. This is a center of buoyancy, right? The same body, just I keep it in this shape. Now you know that in the center of gravity, we have in the downward direction we have weight, and in the center of buoyancy we have a force in the upward direction, that is the buoyancy force. That is the buoyancy force. Right. Now, if I disturb this body, if I give it a disturbing force in the clockwise direction, in the clockwise direction, if we give a force, a disturbing force to this body, I rotate this body in the clockwise direction, then the body will reach like this. Then the body position will be like this. Then the body will look like this. Right, the body will look like this if you give it a rotation in the clockwise direction. Right, this is the type shape of body. Now we will say that, suppose this is the axis now. This is the axis. Now center of gravity and center of buoyancy will remain same, because the mass distribution of body and mass distribution of fluid is not changing. Mass distribution is not changing, right? Same mass distribution of the fluid will be there. So center of buoyancy will be lying at the same place where it was earlier. And we know that on the center of gravity we have a weight in the downward direction, and in the center of buoyancy we have a buoyancy force in the upward direction. We have a buoyancy force in the upward direction. This is in the vertical upward direction. Buoyancy force. So this is the weight, this is the buoyancy force, then it will give you a couple in this direction. You can see there is a distance between them. It will give you a couple in this direction. So in this case, the couple will be in this direction. You gave it the disturbing force in the clockwise direction. It will also give you a couple in the clockwise direction. The body will move continuously. The body will start moving continuously. The body will start falling down continuously in this line, like this. Right. So we can say that this body will not come back to its original position, and this body will moves continuously, because you tilt it in clockwise, you remove the force, but the couple generated by this body is also in the clockwise direction. It will start moving continuously. So this is unstable equilibrium. This is unstable equilibrium. Right, so this is the case of the unstable equilibrium in a completely submerged bodies. Now let us see that what is the third case. If we will discuss the third case, let us say this is a free surface, here we have some fluid. Now we have a body, let us say we have a homogeneous body whose center of buoyancy and center of gravity will coincide. We have a homogeneous body whose mass distribution is uniform. Right, this is a homogeneous body. Right, this is a homogeneous body made up of a same material, either wood or metal, any material. This is a homogeneous body, and let us say this is the axis of this body. This is the axis of this body. If this body is homogeneous and symmetrical, we can say that center of gravity and center of buoyancy will lie at the same place. Center of gravity and center of buoyancy will lie at the same place. We can say they will coincide, and you know, on the center of gravity we have a weight acting in the downward direction. On the center of buoyancy we have a buoyancy force acting in the upward direction. This is the case. If I give it a tilt in the clockwise direction, the body will take this shape. Let us say if you disturb this body in the clockwise direction, the body will take this shape like this. Body will take this shape, and I am saying, let us say that this is the axis of this body. This is the axis. We know when a body is completely submerged in the body, it's in the fluid, its center of gravity and center of buoyancy won't change. So this is the point where center of gravity is there, center of buoyancy is there. It will remain same, and we know that on the center of gravity we have a vertically downward force, that is weight, and on the center of buoyancy we have a vertically upward force, that is buoyancy. Vertically upward force, that is buoyancy force. So in this case there should not be any couple, because they are acting at the same point. They are acting at the same point. There should not be any couple. So when you rotate it, you remove this disturbing force here, the body will stay here only. Neither the body will regain its original shape, nor the body will go continuously moving. So the body will stay at this new equilibrium position only. So this type of equilibrium is neutral equilibrium. This type of equilibrium is neutral equilibrium. So these are the three conditions where you will see that what is the condition for stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium, and neutral equilibrium. We can say, if you see from here, if center of buoyancy is above the center of gravity, this is the objective question. If center of buoyancy is above the center of gravity, you have stable equilibrium. If center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy, you will have unstable equilibrium. These conditions will ask directly in the match of the following or directly in the objective question. You have to remember, if B is above, then stable. If G is above, then it is unstable. And if center of buoyancy and center of gravity coincides, if they coincide, then you have neutral equilibrium. Neutral equilibrium. This is a generalized case. This is a generalized case of the rotational stability of the completely submerged body. Rotational stability of the completely submerged body. And if we talk about, let us say, talk about the linear stability, right? Just one thing I want to say. If we talk about the linear stability of this completely submerged bodies, the linear stability will be, if you can see that if I move this body linearly, from here, if I move this body linearly here, right, it will stay here only. It will be in neutral equilibrium. If I move this body linearly, it will stay there only, right? So the completely submerged bodies are always in neutral equilibrium. Neutral equilibrium against linear displacement. One thing just we want to add, you will not find a question on this, but just for your basic concept, that for linear stability, the completely submerged bodies are always in a neutral equilibrium. They will stay there only. If you give it some small displacement, small linear displacement, they will stay there only. So this is all about the rotational stability of the completely submerged bodies. When the bodies are completely submerged, if center of buoyancy is above the G, then it is stable. If center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy, it is neutral. And if they are coincides, if center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy, it is unstable. If they are coincide with each other, there is a neutral equilibrium. Stop. our next case of discussion is the rotational stability of floating bodies. When the bodies are floating, then what are the cases for stable equilibrium, condition for stable, unstable, neutral equilibrium, and how we can say that by seeing the position of center of buoyancy and center of gravity, whether the body is in stable equilibrium, unstable or neutral equilibrium. We already discussed the stability of your submerged bodies, and we can say that if the center of buoyancy is above the center of gravity, that is stable equilibrium. If the center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy, it is unstable equilibrium, and if both are coincide, it is neutral equilibrium. Now let us see that how we can discuss the rotational stability of floating bodies. This is somewhat difficult to understand. Just pay attention here. Let us say this is a reservoir, or this is a free surface, you can say. Right, I'll take this a free surface here. Okay, we have to show the floating bodies. Okay, let us say this is the free surface of the fluid. Right, for your understanding, I make it a large free surface. There is a fluid here. There is a fluid here. Let us say we have a body which is floating on this fluid. Right, let us say we have this body. This simple body I am taking so that you can understand it. Let us say this is a body which is floating on this fluid. Right, this is the body. This body is floating. Just pay attention, guys. Right, let us say this is the initial axis of this body. Right, this is the initial axis of this body. Just for your understanding, we are making this a simple body so that you can understand, because if you refer this in the books, you will not be able to understand why. See, books will say that you need a meta center, you need a, all of you know, if you have some basic knowledge about the floating bodies, you can say that, sir, instead of by showing center of buoyancy and center of gravity in this floating body, we have a different point known as meta center, right? But nobody will say that why the meta center is required, right? You may not know that why there is a need for meta center. Why? Because if we see that in the case of submerged bodies, we say there is no need of meta center there. By seeing the position of B and G, we can say whether it is stable, unstable or neutral. But in case of the floating bodies, with the help of only B and G, we cannot tell whether the body is in stable, unstable or neutral. I'll show you here that why this is the case, why you need a meta center, right? Let us say this is the center of gravity of this body. This is a homogeneous body, the center of gravity will be the middle of this. Let us say this is the center of gravity G, and center of buoyancy will be the middle of this. Let us say this is the center of buoyancy. This is the center of buoyancy. We take a homogeneous bodies for your understanding, right? We know that on the center of buoyancy we have a upward force, buoyance force. On the center of gravity we have a downward force, that is known as weight of this body. I'll not show this here. Let us say this surface, this water interface will cut this body at this, right, this intersection of this surface and this body. Let us say this is X, right? This is X. If you see here that I show you the body, this much amount of body is inside the fluid, so the fluid displaced by this body will be this one, right? This is the fluid which is displaced by this body. Just pay attention, guys, right? This is the shape of this body which is inside the fluid. This shape of the body is inside the fluid, and fluid is displaced according to this, and because you can see it is symmetric, the center of buoyancy will be here. Now I tilt this body. Now I give it a rotation in the clockwise direction. I'll make a separate diagram here. We'll take the dimensions. Just pay attention, guys. Just try to understand what I want. You must know why there is a need of meta center. Otherwise, in the books, if you refer, and most of you know that if the meta center is above the center of gravity, it is stable. If it is below the center of gravity, it is unstable. If meta center and center of gravity coincide, it is neutral. But most of you will not know why there is a need of meta center. This is the case. First of all, let me make the initial body. Initially, the body is like this. Just pay attention. Initially, the body is like this. We'll go step by step. No need to be worried. You will be able to understand what is happening with the floating bodies. This is the initial shape of this body. This body, initial shape. Now, this is the initial body. If I tilt it, just pay attention. If I tilt it in this direction, let us say this length is 10 meter. Pay attention, guys. Let us say this length is 10 meter. 5 meter is below the liquid, 5 meter is above the liquid. I am assuming it. This is also 10 meter, 5 meter above, 5 meter below. If I tilt this in this direction, if you tilt this in this direction, you will better understand. If you tilt this, then this part of the body will come inside the fluid. This part of body will come inside the fluid, and this part of the body, some part of this body of this line will come above the fluid. Right? If you see here, let us say this is the body. Right? This is the body. This is the fluid surface. This is the body. This is the fluid surface. Below this marker, the lengths are 5, and above the marker, the lengths are 5. If I tilt this body, like this, you can see. If you can see here, right? If you say that this line, if I tilt this body, then this length is going inside the water. You can see, right? This length is going inside the water, and from here you can see that this length is coming out of the water. This length is coming out of the water. Obviously, if you tilt this, then if you tilt this at this center only, right? If you tilt this like this length will come inside the water. This length will come outside the water. Initially, I am saying, let us say they are 5, 5. After some time, we can say that when you tilt it, let us say instead of 5, 7 meter is inside the water, and here your 7 meter is outside the water. It will tilt like this. It will tilt like this. So if I say like this, if I tilt this body, then this will be the shape of the body. If I tilt this like this, this will be the shape of the body. I'll make here. Here we go. This will be the shape of the body after tilting. Right. Here we have more height above and we have less height here. Right. And you join them. So I tilt this body like this, that this length will come inside the body and this length will go outside the body. I joined it. Right. Stop. Start. Now you can see that this side will come inside the fluid and this side will go outside the fluid. Right. Let us say that initially it is of 10 centimeter or 10 meter. Both are of 10 meter and initially 5 meter are in the water and other 5 meter is outside the water. So I can say that now let us say all 7 meter is inside the water and rest is 3 meter here. So from here this is 3 meter, this is 7 meter. Right. So now the shape of the fluid change. Now if I can say this is the body which is inside the fluid now. So if I make it bold, this is the body shape which is inside the fluid. When you tilt it, when you give it some rotational displacement or some rotational disturbance, if you give it, so this is the body which is inside the fluid. Right. And with the red color, we show the body in its initial equilibrium so that you will be able to understand better. Right. So this is the shape of the body after tilting. Right. So this is the body. Now let us say if this is the 10 meter, I will say that let us suppose if we show the, let us say that now the axis of this body is this one. I can say that this is the axis of the body now. This is the axis of the body. Final axis of the body, you can say. This is the final axis of the body after tilting. Right. Right. So now if you see from here that if I mark the fluid surface or if I mark the body surface which is inside the fluid, so if I mark it, let us say this shape of the body, will be inside the fluid. Right, this shape of the body will be inside the fluid. you will feel the difference that here the body is of this shape which is inside the fluid, here the shape will change when you tilt this body. And if I can say, let us say that this is the 5 meter point, middle point, and this is the 5 meter point, and if I join it, if I join these 2 points, so this is what is the axis x. Initial axis x is this one, right? This is the initial axis x. If we can say, make it more correct. If we make it more correct, then this is the axis x, this axis. So we can say that initially this body is inside the fluid. Now this body, this highlighted body is inside the fluid. So you can say that if after seeing this, you can say that, sir, this much amount of body on the right side, this much amount of body will come inside the fluid, and this much amount of body from the left side will go out of the fluid. Right, this much amount of the body will come inside the fluid, and this much amount of this hatched area, this much amount of body will go outside the fluid. Now we can say, if we will discuss it now, that the total volume, and you will appreciate this thing, that this volume will be equal to this volume. So the total volume of the fluid displaced is same. I'm not saying the volume of the fluid change. The total volume of the fluid displaced, in both these cases, the total volume of fluid displaced is same. This volume and this volume is same. But what happen is, if you see from here, that the mass distribution, this is the axis, the mass distribution on the left side of this axis and on the right side of the axis is same. Now the mass distribution of the fluid displaced is more towards the right side and it is less towards the left side. Right, this body will tilt like this. So if you see in the right side, this much amount of the fluid is displaced, and in the left side, this much amount of the fluid is displaced. So I can say that after tilting, the fluid mass distribution will increase towards the right side. Mass distribution of the fluid which is displaced will increase towards the right side, and we know that the center of buoyancy will depend upon the mass distribution of the fluid. So if the mass distribution of the fluid will, the more mass of the fluid is towards the right side, so the center of buoyancy will shift towards the right side. Now in this case, the center of buoyancy will shift towards the right side. So in case of the partially submerged bodies, when you tilt it, the location of the center of buoyancy will change. If we talk about the completely submerged bodies, in that the mass distribution or the mass distribution of the fluid displaced will not change. That's why we can say that the center of buoyancy will not change. Because if you see from here, let us say this is the free surface, if this is the body here, and if I tilt this body, right, mass displacement, fluid displacement is same in both the case, right? Here this one, only the direction, only this body rotate. But now if you see, let us say that this is the initial axis and this is the final axis, the mass distribution of the fluid displaced will remain same on the right hand side and left hand side of this axis. It will not change. So that's why the center of buoyancy will not change, right? So we say that in the completely submerged body, center of buoyancy will not change. But if we talk about the partially submerged body, center of buoyancy is changing because your fluid is displaced. Fluid displacement will be more towards the right side. The mass distribution will be more towards the right side, and the mass distribution is less here. So the center of buoyancy will change, will shift in this direction. Center of buoyancy will shift in this direction, right, towards right. Center of buoyancy will shift towards right. Fine. If we make, this is for your understanding. Now we will see that what happened, right? Same body, same, we will make it another diagram. This I make it just to understand you why the center of buoyancy is changing if you tilt the body when the body is partially submerged or the floated, in case of a floating body, right? Let us, this is the free surface. Right, we'll make this diagram again. Now we have to see why there is a need of metacenter. Why there is a need of metacenter. I hope you understand the concept that why the center of buoyancy shift in case of floating bodies, why the center of buoyancy shift. Now let us say that we'll make this diagram again. I am saying this is the initial body, right? dotted line, with the dotted line I am showing it. This is the initial shape of the body. Right, this is the initial shape of the body. Then we tilt it. So we can say the body will be like this. We tilt this body and the body will take this shape. Right, the body will take this shape. Here the body will be more outside the, right, here this, if we can see, okay, some inclination is more here. Okay. So we can say that here this body is coming outside and on the right side the body is coming inside. This is the shape of the body after tilting. Right, this is the shape of the body after tilting. Now we have to see what, where is the center of gravity and center of buoyancy. We'll highlight it. This is the body. Right. Figures are most important. If you make a figure correctly, then you will be able to understand very easily what is happening with the body. That's why it takes a lot of time to make a correct figure. So that's why we are making separate figures for each and every concept, so that you can easily understand. This is the body now after tilting, and I am saying, let us say that this is the axis of the body, final axis of the body. This is the final axis of the body. Right, this is the final axis of the body. You must appreciate one thing, that the center of gravity of the body will not change. The center of gravity of the body will not change. Why? Because the mass distribution inside the body is not changing. The mass distribution inside the body is not changing. Only the orientation change. From vertical it will become horizontal or some inclined. Only the orientation will change, but the distribution of mass is not changing. So we will say that, suppose we can say that the center of gravity is here, G is here, let us say. So the center of gravity will lie at the same point. This is center of gravity. Center of gravity will lie at the same point, right? And I can say that this is the line of action of weight or gravity force. This black color line is, this line is the vertical line, and along this line I can say that along this line weight is acting. Along this line weight is acting. I am talking about this axis. Now this axis will be tilted, and I can say that initially the center of buoyancy is here. Right, this is the center of buoyancy initially. But now, as you know, as you understand from this, the center of buoyancy tends to shift towards the right direction. So the center of buoyancy will shift right in this direction. Center of buoyancy will shift in this direction. So now just please focus here. Now what will happen? Now let us see what will happen. I am saying that, just understand guys please, the center of buoyancy will shift in this direction. So there may be the three cases. There may be the three cases that center of buoyancy will shift at this position. Let us say B1. The center of buoyancy may shift. It all depends upon this angular displacement. More is the angular displacement, more will be the shift of center of buoyancy. Now center of buoyancy can shift up to here also. Let us say B2. And center of buoyancy can shift up to this point also. Let us say B3. I am writing here B3. Let us say B3. Right. If I say that, let us talk about case 1. Case 1. Case 1 is center of buoyancy is at B1. Center of buoyancy is at B1, at this place. If I say that we know from the center of gravity we have a vertically downward force, that is weight, and on the center of buoyancy we will have a buoyant force in the vertically upward direction. In the vertically upward direction, let us say the vertically upward direction is this one. This is the buoyancy force B1, this is the buoyancy force FB, and I am saying, let us say this is B1, right? This point is B1. You can see from here, if the center of buoyancy will shift at this point and weight is acting downward, buoyancy force is acting downward, it will give you a couple in the clockwise direction. It will give you a couple in the clockwise direction, right? It will give you a couple in the clockwise direction. So if the center of buoyancy is at B1, then the couple will be in clockwise direction, and if the couple will be in the clockwise direction, you can say it is a unstable equilibrium. It is a unstable equilibrium. If the center of buoyancy will be at B1, new center of buoyancy will be at B1. So it is an unstable equilibrium. If we talk about case 2, case 2 is, let us say that this center of buoyancy is at B3. The center of buoyancy now is at B3, not at B1. I remove this. Let us say the center of buoyancy is at B3. So here we have a vertically upward force from this B3. We have a vertically upward force, that is the buoyancy force from B3. And you can see from here that this is acting in the upward direction, this is acting in the downward direction. You will get a couple in the anti-clockwise direction. So if the center of buoyancy is at B3, then you can say that couple is in counterclockwise direction. So if you tilt it in the clockwise direction, couple will be in the anti-clockwise, restoring couple will be in the anti-clockwise direction. So you can say it is a stable equilibrium. You can say it is a stable equilibrium. Now we will see that case 3. Let us discuss case 3. Case 3 is when the center of buoyancy is at B2. Center of buoyancy is at B2, right? I remove it. Now let us say that the center of buoyancy is at B2, is here. So at this B2 we have a vertically upward force. At this B2 we have a vertically upward force, that is the buoyancy force. Vertically upward force, that is a buoyancy force. So we can say at this, the line of action of weight and the buoyancy force is same. So the couple in this case is 0. And if the couple is 0, you can say this is a neutral equilibrium. This is a neutral equilibrium. Now what happens is, center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy, right? Center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy. If it is a completely submerged body, we can easily say that it is an unstable equilibrium. But if we talk about the submerged bodies, partially submerged bodies, then if the center of gravity is above the center of buoyancy, we have unstable also, we have stable equilibrium also, we have neutral equilibrium also. So that is the reason that we cannot define which type of equilibrium the body has based on seeing the position of center of gravity and this center of buoyancy. You cannot tell. It may be unstable, it may be stable, it may be neutral equilibrium. So you cannot tell this, that where is the center of buoyancy, or where is whether the equilibrium is stable, unstable, or neutral equilibrium. That's why you need another point by which you can say that by seeing the position of that point, whether the system is in stable equilibrium, unstable equilibrium, or neutral equilibrium. And that point which we want to specify the state of equilibrium is known as meta-center. Right? I hope you understand why you need a meta-center in case of partially submerged bodies to specify the state of equilibrium. Now, just pay attention, guys. Just pay attention here. We can say that if the center of buoyancy is between B to B2, if the center of buoyancy is between this B1 and B2, or you can say B and B2, if the center of buoyancy will at any point here, then it will be an unstable equilibrium. If center of buoyancy is in between this B2 and B3, then upward force will be there, it will give you a counterclockwise rotation, then it is a stable equilibrium. And if the center of buoyancy is at this B2, then it is a neutral equilibrium. right? So we can say, now let us just pay attention here. Now we can say that if I rub this, okay, I'll rub this because it is already clear to you that why the center, this meta center is required, right? First of all, let us define the meta center. Meta center. How we can find the meta center? Meta center is a point of intersection. Point of intersection of lines of action of buoyant force. Lines of action of buoyant force before and after rotation. Before and after rotation. Before rotation, this is the line of action of buoyant force. After rotation, these are the lines of action of force. So we will say that before and after rotation, what is the where these two lines will intersect, that is known as your meta center. Now pay attention, guys. I can say I'm not drawing the axis, this body again and again. We only talk with respect to the axis. I'm only drawing the axis. This inclined axis I am showing here. This new axis of the body. This is the axis of the body, right? You have center of gravity somewhere here. This is the center of gravity you have, and from this center of gravity you have a vertically downward force. This will remain same. Center of gravity will not change. From this you have a weight acting in the downward direction, right? And this is your center of buoyancy before rotation. This is the center of buoyancy before rotation. Now we can say that if we want a stable equilibrium, just pay attention, guys. If you want a stable equilibrium, you need a restoring couple in the counterclockwise direction. So if this force is in the downward direction, you need a upward force from in the right side of this. You need a upward force in the right side of this weight, so that it will give you a counterclockwise rotation. So you need that, you say that, sir, that new center of buoyancy will be in the right side of this line of action, this line of action of weight. So I can say, if let us say we talk about this is a new center of buoyancy. This is a new center of buoyancy, let us say B, from here B3. This is a new center of buoyancy B3. And from this B3, we are saying that there is a force acting in the upward direction, that is a buoyancy force, and it will give you a clock and counterclockwise rotation, and the body will be in equilibrium. This is the initial axis of line of action of buoyancy force, and this is the final line of action of buoyancy force. I will say that if I extend it, then where the initial and final axis of line of action of center of buoyancy force or the buoyancy force, the intersection of final and initial line of action of buoyancy force, where it will intersect each other, that is known as meta center. That is known as meta center. And you will appreciate one thing, that if the center of buoyancy, new center of buoyancy will be in the right side of this line, then you will get always a stable equilibrium. You will get always a stable equilibrium. So if you extend, let us say if here is the center of buoyancy, if you will extend this line, it will cut here. So you can say this diagram is for stable equilibrium. This diagram is for a stable equilibrium. So in that case, you can say if meta center is above the center of gravity, if the meta center is above the center of gravity, we have stable equilibrium. We have stable equilibrium, right? Similarly, if we talk about unstable equilibrium, this is the axis. This is the axis. Similarly, if I am saying this is the center of gravity of the body, and I can say from this center of gravity we are having weight in the vertically downward direction. Weight. This is the initial buoyancy force or center of buoyancy, initial. Start. Let us say this is the initial center of buoyancy, and the final center of buoyancy, from that we will say it is at B1. It shifts to this point B1. This is the final center of buoyancy, and we know that this is point B1. And we know that from the center of buoyancy we will have a vertically upward force, that is known as buoyancy force. And you can see from here that it will give you a clockwise rotation, clockwise force, and this is a unstable equilibrium. So if I extend this new line of action of the center of buoyancy, if I extend it, it will cut this earlier line of action here, and this is known as meta center. This is known as meta center. And you can appreciate one thing, that if the center of buoyancy is shifting towards the right side, and if it is between this B and this line of weight, then if it is between this region, in this region, then always you have a unstable equilibrium, because here you have a vertical force, upward force, here you have downward, you will get a clockwise rotation. So this is the example, this is the case of unstable equilibrium. Unstable equilibrium, when you can say when center of gravity is above the meta center, then you will get a unstable equilibrium, right? If center of buoyancy will be anywhere, in that case meta center is below the center of gravity, then you have a unstable equilibrium. Now let us talk about the neutral equilibrium. We will say that, suppose this is the axis, this is the initial center of gravity, or the center of gravity of the body. From here we have a vertically downward force, that is weight. Initial center of buoyancy is this B, and if let us say the center of buoyancy will shift to this B2. If center of buoyancy will shift to this B2, so from this center of buoyancy you will have a vertically upward force, that is the buoyancy force, and if I extend this line, it will cut the original initial axis or initial line of action of buoyancy force at this point only. So this is the meta center. This is the meta center, and here you can see that buoyancy force and this weight will act at the same point. There is no couple, so this is a neutral equilibrium. This is a neutral equilibrium, so I can write, if meta center and centroid or center of gravity coincides, you will get a neutral equilibrium. So you have to remember this thing. Like in the completely submerged bodies, I can say that if the center of buoyancy is above center of gravity, we have stable. Center of buoyancy is below the center of gravity, we have unstable. And center of buoyancy and center of gravity coincide, we have neutral. In partially submerged, just you can replace the center of buoyancy with the meta center. So if M is above the G, stable. If M is below the G, unstable. If they both coincides, we have neutral equilibrium. So this is the concept of rotational stability in case of a floating bodies. That's why we need that's why I can say that's why we need a meta center. I hope you understand the concept, that from where this new center, that is meta center, will come and what is the need of it, right? So this is all about your rotational stability of the floating bodies. Stop.